is up, and it's good.
You're listening to The Extra Point, hosted by Phil Ruskin. Welcome.
Welcome in. It is another episode of The Extra Point, and it is time. Kendall and I have been doing this together for a long time now. This will be our third, maybe even fourth year in a row that we have done the annual Do Not Draft List. This will be the 2026 version. We're going to do it a little different this year. Instead of going through one long full show, we are going to go and do a couple of short shows position by position. So if you are listening to this on Spotify or Patreon, make sure you click the title of the position you want to hear. If you are watching on YouTube, make sure you click the video that has the position that you would like to hear. We're going to start at the top, Kendall, with the quarterbacks. Obviously, I think it's important that you understand your league format. Is it a 4-point passing league? Is it a 6-point passing league? That does make a difference. I think you and I primarily, when we play Redraft, are going to play in one quarterback league. So that's kind of the format we're going to be addressing tonight. If it's super flex, sure, that changes maybe a little bit of our takes, but I don't know if it really does. So we're going to start with our 2026 Do Not Draft List. I'm going to kick us off here at the quarterback position. Kendall, this one hurt my heart just to write his name down because I love him. I have him in Dynasty. We love him as a player. We love him as a prospect. It's Drake May. It hurts me to even say it. I cringed, but it's Drake May. Look, he's coming off the board as the QB3 right now. ADP overall on average about 54, which means he's coming off the board in the 5th round. And this one hurts, right? Because we love Drake May, but look, I'm going to toot our horn for a second. We've done this 3-4 years in a row now, and we have nailed the do not draft. Insert quarterback name here. We had CJ Stroud as the poster boy on this show 2 years ago, and you and I got ripped in the comments. Ripped. And CJ Stroud had a dog shit season. So that one kind of felt good. I don't want to be right about this one, but he's on my do not draft show for a reason. Here's the reasons why, guys. He's coming off the board as the QB2, QB3. He was the overall QB2 last season, but listen, they had the 3rd easiest schedule. Okay. I know that these people are going to say, oh, but Drake May's still a great player. And he is. But when you have the 3rd easiest schedule, that makes a huge difference. And this year they have the 6th most difficult. So yes, they added Romeo Doubs and AJ Brown to get him some more weapons, but you're drafting a player coming off a QB2 season, expecting another rinse and repeat, potentially top 5 season from him. So I just don't want a 5th round quarterback. That's the other reason why Drake May is on this list. I'm not saying Drake May is a bum. I'm not saying Drake May is going to be garbage and is going to lose you your league. I'm saying there are better ways to build and construct your roster than to take a quarterback this early. And let me just give you a couple names that are, as of today, going in the 5th round. Joe Burrow, Jameson Williams, if you want to go ahead and shore up your wide receiver, probably 3 in the 5th round, maybe your wide receiver 2. Tyler Warren. Kendall, you and I were talking a lot about this year being one of those years where if you don't get one of the top 4 guys at the tight end position, punt, man, completely punt. And we normally do that anyway. But if I could get Tyler Warren or I could get Drake May, I know I want to try to get the positional advantage of Tyler Warren. When I'm 4 rounds into a draft where I'm most likely in most league formats, I'm starting 2 to 3 wide receivers. I'm absolutely having to start 2 running backs. And I'm probably starting 2 to 3 flex players, depending on your league, depending on your format. You need some ceiling in your first couple rounds, and you need some depth. And so there's a world where Drake May does not finish ahead of names like Justin Herbert, Dak Prescott, Jared Goff, and you can get yourself one of the top 4 elite tight ends to solidify that position. You can build depth at the wide receiver or the running back position. It's just too expensive. I just don't think he pays off his ADP, and I don't think he finishes inside the top 3 at the quarterback position. So for those reasons, Drake May, sorry, buddy, but you're on my quarterback do not draft list for 2026. Who you got, Kendall?
Yeah, agree with everything you said too. It does pain me.
I was very, very in on Drake May. If you guys remember from the draft, any of the draft shows last year, Drake May was my flag plant. So super happy to be right on there, and for the right reasons. Don't love that the Patriots are good, but it is what it is. All right, QB that I'm avoiding, Lamar Jackson. We're not drafting Lamar Jackson. It's not so much a take against the player. I'm going to shout out a couple guys here real quick. Matthew Berry is at least the first guy that I remember saying this. You don't win your draft in the first couple of rounds, but you can lose it. I think Lamar has a ridiculous ceiling, easily QB1 ceiling, but injuries, inconsistency. We got a new OC in there. And really, this is just the big take here is I would just rather draft Josh Allen, right? If I'm going to draft an early quarterback, Josh Allen is the most tier 0 cheat code I've ever seen at consistency, just always the quarterback 1 or 2. And also at the quarterback 1 or 2, it's also league winning statistics, right? We've seen some years, the year that Jonathan Taylor was the RB1 was actually a down year for running back. If you look at the score in and of itself, right? Sometimes players like their RB1, RB2, QB1, QB2. It's also like, look at the points per game. And did they actually win leagues or were they just nice in the position, but the position didn't matter? So for those reasons, I don't want to draft a quarterback in the first 5 rounds either. That's well said. And Lamar he's just going off the board in round 4. I mean, ECR, he's the QB2. A lot of folks easily 2 or 3. ADP's 34th overall, going at the 310 on Sleeper right now. In sharper leagues, he typically falls to the 4th. It's still around early for me. And there's just guys that I think are going to finish closer to him that I can still get in the 6th round. Like Jalen Hurts has been falling, and I think he has a very similar range of outcomes to Lamar Jackson, in my opinion. So I'd rather have Allen or later. I just don't want to take the risk-adjusted price for him.
Again, I think we need to just caveat this, and I think, sadly, we might need to say it multiple times throughout the show. We are not saying these are bad players. We're just saying that the price for what we predict, what a lot of people predict the return will be, it just isn't there. And in a season, like you just said it perfectly, right, where you can lose your draft in the first 5 rounds, I just would rather take safety. I love what you said. Just take Josh Allen. If you're going to go quarterback that early, just take Josh Allen. It's plug and play and just move on. I'm going to get to my second quarterback here, and it is old Patty Mahomes. Coming off the board is the QB 13 ADP overall around pick 106, meaning that he is coming off the board roughly in the 8th round. And it's name value, right? But my question is it? The reports around Mahomes coming off of this ACL is that he will, quote, be ready for week 1. But how healthy is he? Right? And like, are you going to get off to a slow start? I think you are. I think you look at Mahomes' value last season, it was with his legs. He was their RB1, Kendall. You remember this. He was their leading fucking rusher. Literally led the team in rushing yards from the quarterback position. They knew they didn't have a running back. They went and signed Kenneth Walker. So Travis Kelce's a year older. I've always been out on Xavier Worthy. You know that. Xavier Worthy's never been on my board. He was never on my dynasty boards. I don't like it's nice to be right, but like, you want these kids to succeed. This is their livelihood. This is how they're going to take care of their families and pay for their kids. But like, Xavier Worthy's just not panned out to what you want him to be. And Rashee Rice is great when he plays, but he's a massive wild card. And other than that, they haven't really upgraded this team. So if you're going to sit there and tell me like, well, Eric Bieniemy is back. Okay. I mean, cool. Like, that's a positive, but it's the same weapons with a better run game and still a pretty darn good defense. So I think in the 8th round, this is where you're looking at kind of the tier break for me, where I'd just rather go super late quarterback. And I think it's kind of, we've never really used this. We use it for the running backs, but like, this is kind of where I think there's a proverbial dead zone for the quarterbacks. And you're going to get somebody in there that's like, I got to get a quarterback. I got to build my starting roster before I build my bench. Ooh, Patrick Mahomes is there. Let me tell you this. Jared Goff has finished ahead of Patrick Mahomes the last 3 years in a row. 3 seasons running. And he goes 6, count him, Kendall, 6 rounds later. Why wouldn't you just take somebody that I believe has a better team, much better weapons, is probably, most likely, going to finish ahead of Mahomes again. We'll call it 5 rounds later. Just take the discount. So I'm passing on Mahomes, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but if I don't get one of the top 4 tight ends in this league in my drafts, Mark Andrews is a lock for me. And that's where I'm going to take him, is the 8th, maybe the 9th round, probably the 8th, so that I make sure I get him and I don't get sniped. But if I get sniped and Andrews isn't there, or I get one of the first 4 tight ends that I really want, Josh Downs is probably going to be the Colts wide receiver 1 for the first month. And I think he's going to have a hell of a season. Alec Pierce is still on the pup. I'll take him there. I really don't want anything to do with some of these messy backfields, but if I started super heavy with wide receiver, or if I went and got a Josh Allen early and missed out on a 3rd running back, I'll take Rachaad White, who's probably going to be the running back 1 for the Washington Commanders. So those aren't sexy names, but these are guys that I would take ahead of Mahomes because I know I can get a Jared Goff with a huge discount later, who's probably on a PPG going to give me better numbers and ultimately more than likely going to have a better season at the end of the year than Mahomes is in the 8th round. So again, Patrick Mahomes on my do not draft quarterback list.
Yeah, tough one, but could not agree more. Would have been on mine if he wasn't on your show sheet to begin with. But
I think they call that consensus.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, I like what you said there about the QB dead zone, because I got a guy that's coming off the board pretty similar, I think. My last do not draft quarterback is going to be, sorry, Mike, it's Jackson Dart. Not going to be on my board this year. Right now, he's ECR QB 11, coming off the board ADP 92. It's the 808 on average. In the Fantasy Football Network drafts that we've had the past 3 or 4, he's been consistently coming off mid to late 9th. So again, more industry competitive drafts, they're going to be QBs in general go a little bit later. But that's kind of where he's at, somewhere between the late 8th and 9th. This is a situation where it's QB dead zone because I think he can outperform his ADP. He might, but I don't think he's going to win you a league. I don't see him having top 5 upside, even, and that's crazy to say with the rushing, but much like the Chicago Bears last year, I like their young weapons. You know, I'm one of the highest in the industry on Malik Neighbors, and I never really faded him, to be honest. Actually, quote several movies, I went and bought some more of him when he was on sale, and that feels fantastic. So I like Likely. I'm way above market on Scadaboo. So I like their pieces, but I just think we're a year early. I don't see the upside. And I still think there are legitimate league winning options even later that can finish top 5 because the overall offense, just everything has the ability to work out quite a bit better for him. So it's not a talent take. I actually think he's going to work out, but Hurts has been falling, and I would rather have him. Like the tier of guys above him, like say Hurts, T-Law, Caleb, Herbert's a little too high right now. I not quite, but you can get some of these guys in the late 6th or 7th, and I think they could actually win you a league at that spot where it's that quarterback dead zone. So I'm going a little earlier or a whole lot later. I'd rather take Malik Willis as my last pick of my draft, honestly. Because I think they have similar ceilings. One's got a little bit of a looser floor, but I can play the waiver wire at that point. So not a terrible pick. It's not a mistake. I think they're better picks at quarterback for me.
Yeah, Jackson Dart's an interesting, I want to say case study because we're not ready to do that yet, but he is an interesting prospect to watch because I do think that if the news around Neighbors over the next 2 to 3 weeks is overwhelmingly positive, I think he's going to get a boost. People are in on Scadaboo, people are in on Likely. So I'm with you. I think his rise in ADP probably makes your take a little bit stronger. I'm surprised you didn't say your boy. I thought, if you're going to take a guy late round, Tyler Shuck hasn't come out of your mouth once on this show. Maybe I won't tease it, but maybe you're saving him for the league winners show. So we'll see. That show's coming here in the next week or two.
Yeah, you can pencil that one in for the My Guy show.
Yeah, I won't have to get in the show doc ahead of you for that one. I think I'll just let that one slide and let you have that one. So
I might have the jersey on at that point, man.
I mean, I'm surprised you don't have the tattoo there. So here we go, Tyler Shuck. So I'm going to finish the quarterback segment here. Listen, it's a guy that I'm rooting for. It's the second highest odds behind Patrick Mahomes, actually, to be the comeback player of the year. It's Jaden Daniels. He's coming off the board as the QB 5, around the 63rd pick in ADP. So coming off in the middle of the 5th round. Look, this Laramie Tunsil injury that happened last week is a big deal. It's a big deal. And I'm not one of those people that's going to say, like, oh, every single thing around the quarterback depends, on one player, because we've seen players go down. But like, look at the Chargers last season. Justin Herbert, phenomenal start. Everything's going great. And then the entire offensive line goes down, and the Chargers just sort of limped through it, right? You lose Hampton, you lose all the. So it's like the offensive line makes a huge difference. Of course, that's a very obvious statement, but Laramie Tunsil is a big piece of that. So if you take Tunsil out, okay, fine. What do we have left? It's similar to the Chiefs. Like, they didn't upgrade. You've got Bill and Rashad White. Those aren't league winners. That's a timeshare committee backfield that is just going to be there to support Jaden. You add Stephon Diggs to go with Terry McLaurin. That's not a ceiling combination play for Jaden to have an outstanding QB1 overall ceiling like a Chase Higgins, like a Lamb Pickens, that you're going to get, where you've got good quarterback play that can be great quarterback play because you have two elite wide receivers and weapons. Those guys are not elite. So the thing I like about the Commanders is they do have the fourth easiest strength of schedule. So that's in their favor. But again, this offense just doesn't scream high touchdown volume with an outlier passing, touchdown season for Jaden. So he's going to have to run. So I think he's going to have a good season. Again, I'm not saying Jaden's a bum. This is the Do Not Draft show is not like these guys are terrible. No, the Do Not Draft show is we don't recommend drafting these players at their ADP because there's better value elsewhere where you can get a player, like you said, who's probably going to outperform some of the guys we're talking about, and go get a higher caliber running back or go get depth at your wide receiver position. So I think there's a world where Jaden probably gets outproduced by Caleb, by Dak, by Herbert, all of whom are going 2 to 3 rounds later. And that means I can go grab an extra wide receiver. It means I can go get, a third running back. And I'd rather have that knowing that I probably have a 55-45 shot, maybe even 50-50 on those three names that I just gave you, Caleb, Dak, and Herbert, outproducing Jaden. So if the weapons around him were better, if there was more elite ceiling, if they had drafted Jeremiah Love, maybe we're having a different conversation. But with the loss of Laramie Tunsil and just not huge ceiling from the running back or the elite receiving positions, I think I'm just going to let someone else take Jaden, and I'll go grab another quarterback later. So, Kendall, anyone else? We didn't really, we had those guys on the show sheet, but as we kind of go through, is there anybody else that you want to just talk about? It doesn't not necessarily a do not draft, but a guy that, you're just, maybe he didn't make the show that comes to mind. Cause I have one that's just kind of quick. He's not a do not draft for me, but it's more of like I'm just not confident. So do you have a player that you're maybe just kind of, I'm not confident, as a bonus for the listeners?
Yeah. There's a couple that come to mind. Like, there's guys later that I just like over better players. So I didn't want to say like, hey, don't take this guy, because the take is really, I just like this guy a little bit better. Kyler just got named the starter. I'm sure his ADP is going to go up a little bit. Everyone's asking like, hey, are you
Agreed.
in on him? He's like neck and neck with like a Malik Willis tier for me, where I plan on streaming the position if I draft him, essentially, because it's really volatile. I don't think there's as much ceiling there as people think. New system probably takes a while to get warmed up. I think you drop him for somebody else before he gets good, probably. So I guess I'll come out and say that I'm kind of out on Kyler, and I would. Purdy goes pretty late, and there's just I'd rather draft him, and that kind of a thing. Even if he's not rushing, I'd rather have Stafford just a little bit earlier for the overall offense. So stuff like that. I think there's a real shot if the season's completely lost that Addison gets traded to pay potentially like the Chiefs or something or the Raiders, right? I could see something like that happening. So there's just a couple there. Everyone else, I think the guys that come to mind right now are guys that I actually want to draft. So I'm already starting to think positive, but yeah.
For me, it's Bo Nix. He's kind of my it doesn't really do it for me. He's not on my do not draft list because I do think his ADP is low enough right now, coming off the board as the QB 15, 120th overall. That's like the 10th round. Sure, he'll probably rise another round, so we'll call it the 9th. And really, if you're at the 8-9 turn and you really feel like he's not going to get back to you, fine. But there was times when this Denver offense was just anemic last year, just anemic. And it's not that I mean, and you're going to sit here and say, well, but Phil, he was the QB7 both seasons in a row. Sure, at the end of the season. But I don't know that I want to risk somebody like a Bo Nix as my starter. And let's again presume health. I don't know that I want to risk him as my starter in week 15 when I desperately need to get into the playoffs, or week 16 when I'm in the playoffs, having that be the dud week that he puts up, because that can cost you, right? And again, it's like, sure, any player can have a bad week at the wrong time, but I just don't know that the ceiling is high enough for him on a weekly basis, on a PPG game basis, where I'm saying like, hey, you know, shoot, it's Monday Night Football. I need at least 19 points out of my quarterback to win here. I may not get that. I could get 7. I could get 30, but I could get 7 versus, you know, if I've got Dak on a Monday Night Football and I need 19 points, I at least feel confident that it is in the range of outcomes that I should win that league matchup. Again, it could happen. I could get 6, I could get 7, but like, I just feel better about the ceiling for a Dak Prescott, a Justin Herbert, you know, a Trevor Lawrence than I do about Bo Nix. So he's someone that if he's there at the right price, I'd give it a good look, but he's not someone I'm targeting, but he's also not on my do not draft list. I don't think it's going to be like the guys we talked about. Like, you know, if Drake May doesn't return overall top 5 value, you just burned a 5th round pick, and that can hurt you a lot. Whereas if you burn a 10th round on Bo Nix, like you said, maybe I could stream someone off the wire if I'm in a pinch in week 15 and really need to win, and just stream it off of a matchup. So we'll go from there. So.
Yeah, agreed.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Do Not Draft List quarterback edition. Kendall and I are going to be going through the running back, the wide receiver, and then we will figure out what we want to do with the tight end position, because it is unique. I think we might just talk about the tight end landscape versus talking about the Do Not Draft List, because I think everyone in the industry pretty much agrees if you're not getting one of the big 4, punt. But we'll talk about the landscape. So tune in for other positions for the Do Not Draft List 2026 edition. We out.